Being data-driven is not about dashboards, or it's not about management looking at dashboards. It's about my team, which is the data analytics team, together with other teams in the organization, have to ensure that the data is reliable, usable, and trustworthy to be able to make a decision in the organization.
If you don't have enough data or no data at all to answer the business assumption, what would you do?
The first thing is everyone has shared ownership on data quality. So it's not just the data teams that are responsible for data quality. It means that everyone is behaving responsibly. Everyone has an understanding of what this data means, and everyone is protecting data.
Will you use customers' sensitive data to enhance your LLMs and SLMs?
No. So we don't need customer data to enhance our LLMs or SLMs.
How is AI changing the way your teams actually work day to day?
Yeah, that's an important question, especially where we're going with AI in the organization or AI in the world today. Traditionally, it would take a team about a week to build out a dashboard, but now in a couple of hours.
For someone considering a data career, how should they prepare for their future here?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Hi everyone, and welcome to IT Big podcast interview series for the AI and Data Segment Program. I'm Yasuhiro Miyamoto, General Director of IT Big. Today, when people talk about digital transformation, AI, or customer experience, data is almost always at the center of the conversation. But many companies invest heavily in data, yet still struggle to turn data into something the business can actually use. So what does it really need for data to become a true business capability? To unpack that, we are joined by Mr. Bivash Devjee, Head of Data and Analytics at GoTymeX, to explore how modern data teams create business value, develop talent, and prepare for a future increasingly shaped by AI. Hi, Mr. Bivash Devjee. Thank you so much for joining us today. For listeners who may be meeting you for the first time, could you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. Firstly, thank you for having me. My name is Bivash Devjee. I currently head up the data analytics function in Vietnam. I have almost 2 decades worth of experience in the financial industry, ranging from banking to insurance. And I've always been curious about data and using data to make impactful decisions. I've been part of the GoTyme group for the past 9 years. And I initially started off my journey when we were still small. And I was curious about the prospect and the opportunity of starting a bank from scratch and using data to drive the decisions that we have in the organizations today. So we're still ambitious, we're still hungry, and I'm glad to see where we're expanding on our markets today.
Thank you for your self-introduction. We often hear phrases like data-driven decision-making, single source of truth, or self-service analytics. They sound compelling, but in reality, many organizations are still trying to figure out what those ideas actually look like in practice. To start, let's build a common understanding of what modern data leadership really means. Give us the quick picture. What does the organization look like, and what's your role?
GoTyme Group has digital banks operating in South Africa and Philippines, with plans of expanding into new markets. Just to give you a sense of scale, we serve about 22 million customers that trust us as a banking platform. The South African operations hit profitability. Group was valuated at $1.5 billion at the end of 2024 when we hit unicorn status. We're also one of the fastest growing digital banking groups in the world. Then we have GoTymeX, which is the technology engine behind all of this. So the products, the infrastructure, the engineering, all of that gets done here. And my team, which is the data analytics team, together with other teams in the organization, have to ensure that the data is reliable, usable, and trustworthy to be able to make a decision in the organization.
So just my curious, what kind of problems do you need to solve when managing multiple members and stakeholders from around the world?
Sure. The first and foremost, it's the regulation compliance and just complying with the regulations, the data regulations that's there and the sovereignty. But there's different needs and priorities across the different countries and geographies as well. So prioritizing between the differences in the countries and prioritizing the needs in the different countries. That's been an exciting challenge to speak for us to actually deal with it as well.
22 million customers. What does your team actually do with all that data?
Sure. So we answer the what, the why, and what to do next. Often at times, you'll find that analytics is, produce analytics, but it's also the so what happens next. If we think of data, and if you think of the applications that's on your phone, every interaction that the customer has with the application generates data. So we're generating data when a user is interacting with the application. We generate data when there's a transaction. Our job in the team is to ensure that the data is collected and we're making this meaningful to the organization to make a business decision on.
Okay, thank you. So just a quick question from me. What does data-driven actually mean? And is GoTymeX there yet?
Yes. So being data-driven is not about dashboards or it's not about management looking at dashboards. It's about using data to make a decision at every step of the organization. So whether you're in leadership, whether you're in operations, whether you're in product, it's about using the data to back decisions that you're making and making more informed decisions. So at the moment, it's more about making sure that data is democratized across the different members that use the data so they can make a bit more informed decisions as we move along.
Yeah, thank you for your sharing. That gives us a strong foundation for understanding what it takes make that vision real. Of course, strategy is one thing. Operating it day to day at scale is another challenge entirely. So next, let's go inside the engine room. How modern data organizations are actually built and run. So you're on Databricks and AWS. What does the data architecture look like?
We have been fortunate that we are cloud native from the start. We use Databricks as well as AWS to deliver most of our data needs across the organization. So we use Databricks as the data and AI platform with our warehousing. With the unique catalog that exists, we can ensure that the data is secure with the right protocols in place. We can also make sure that the right people are getting access to the right information if need be, depending on the use case. On the AWS side, we use majority of the products on AWS. With Databricks as well as AWS together, we can provide a good, well-packaged solution that's beneficial for the banks and beneficial through the product delivery.
Okay, thank you. So just my curious, Mr. Bivash, what's the successful use case when using Databricks for your business or clients or project?
Yeah, it's a good question. So on Databricks itself, we have our models that we create. So this could be churn prediction models. This could be our warehouse where we're storing our data. We have Unity Catalog in place. Whenever we need to do any analytics or whenever we have any use cases to answer, if it's modeling or analytics, we use Databricks to drive most of those outcomes. Databricks comes with a lot of out-of-the-box solutions that's already well packaged and well managed within that environment, like MLflow, Unity Catalog, most of the AI foundation models are in there as well. And for the data scientists and the analysts in the organization, as well as the developers, we found that they can execute most of their tasks very quickly using the platform. And that has helped us tremendously in saving a lot of efficiency on the deliverables that we need to cater for.
Okay, thank you. So speaking of data quality, everyone talks about it, but few get it right. What's your approach?
So we usually take a 3-step process. So the first one is managing quality upfront and as early on in the process as possible. That means that the creators of the data are also responsible for the quality of the data that is being produced. The second piece of this is monitoring and observing. So we want to make this visible. And the third one is that everyone has shared ownership on data quality. So it's not just the data teams that are responsible for data quality. Everyone in the organization takes first hand into managing data quality from the onset. As we progress in our industry and with the use of AI, data quality is paramount to ensuring that we're making the right decisions and we have good context behind them.
Okay, it's very interesting. So among these three steps you mentioned, what is the most important step?
So for me, it is around the shared ownership of data quality and data governance. Without that in itself, you have a central team that is managing all of this, that takes the ownership of making sure that this data is viable to use. But with shared ownership, it means that everyone is behaving responsibly. Everyone has an understanding of what this data means, and everyone is protecting data like PII, which our customers trust us to be secure on.
Okay, true. So, by the way, how is the team structured across multiple markets and disciplines?
Sure. We have a hybrid model. We have data teams that are deployed within each country, as well as in the product house itself. And in the product house, we have analysts that are distributed across the different features or products that we offer. In that, we have data platform teams that are responsible for the infrastructure and the engineering. We have the analytics engineers that are responsible for using the pipelines that are being created, as well as the semantics of it. And then we have the analytics and data scientists that use the data and try to understand what is happening in the organization, why it's happening, and to provide the business with a bit more insights in where we actually headed. Yeah, it's just for us to make a bit more of an informed decision. So the analysts, the data scientists, and the data personas that are sitting in the different geographies that understand the customer behavior that's taking place in their different geographies, that information feeds back. So you have the technical skills that are built up from the central team, but then you also have the knowledge that is coming from the product teams as you have the different data personas sitting in the different pods.
But how can you control the outcome quality of each team?
So as I mentioned earlier, one of the key points for us is shared responsibility on data quality. And we try to ensure that data quality is managed way up front in the process when the data is being generated, which means with the visibility and observability that we have in place, we want to pick up challenges and issues early on in the process rather than in a dashboard where we're picking up discrepancies and we're trying to make a change that's already too late. We try to observe and we try to manage this as early on in the process as we possibly can. But as I mentioned, everyone has shared responsibility on data quality. And if there's a discrepancy in the number, it's our job as the data team to ensure that the trusted number is being shared throughout the organization. What we don't want is different teams arguing about the number. Our team is responsible for that being the source of truth so that we can actually move forward with decisions that are being made.
However, in the real event, every team thinks their request is the most urgent. How do you prioritize?
Most of the requests that come through are always tied to a business objective and an OKR. We are fortunate in GoTyme that most of the projects that we deal, if there are requests that's coming through from South Africa, or if there's requests that's coming through from Philippines, and if we know it's affecting our customer and there's a big demand for it, it's linked to what's going to enable the teams the most. So we prioritize based on, firstly, the customer, if the customer is impacted. Secondly, it's based on the business objective and the OKRs that have been set, and we prioritize accordingly. If there is a request that comes through with some level of urgency, communication is also part of the package. It's our job to also communicate that this is what we're going to manage, and it's also our job to communicate and make sure that stakeholders understand that this is the top of the priority, this is what we'll tackle next, and move forward with it. But majority of the time, it's all linked to a business objective because we're all driving towards the same goal.
Okay. So let me dive in a specific topic about regulated banking, such as SARB or BSP. How do you move fast while protecting privacy?
I don't see the two as being naturally opposed. I think with good governance and good quality itself, we can move very quickly. So in the organization, as I mentioned, we try and treat data quality upfront in the process and manage that upfront in the process. But with the right protocols, the right processes, the right governance in place, it just enables teams to operate a lot more quicker, especially if we're dealing that upfront as well. So if we have the right policies in place, the right controls, the right obfuscation, the teams don't have to worry about that or the regulation piece. The teams can operate using the data, but more responsibly in the organization. So that actually enables speed. It enables the innovation for teams to build on. Whereas the afterthought, if it's treated as an afterthought, you're pretty much chasing fixing data, you're pretty much chasing fixing regulatory disconnects and so forth. So we try to keep hold of that as early on in the process as we can.
Okay, I see. So tell me more about this one. How do you bridge the gap between data team and business leaders?
Sure. This is all about translation. Essentially, you'll have data teams or data personas in the organization that are quite technical. If they need to convey this message in the business, we need to tell the story. We need to be able to describe this problem or describe the output and the suggestion in a meaningful way so that the business can understand and take the decision and move forward with it. So we try to balance out and translate the requirements that's coming from business, the problem statement that's coming through, the hypotheses that we're trying to test through, and tell the story in itself. So we will distill the information from business, pass it through to the teams for them to do their analytics or projects that they need, and then vice versa. You would have the data teams that tell the story to the business partners, and this is where data fluency comes into play. And as the teams start using data a lot more, you find that the conversations become a lot more easier. And that's what it truly also means to be a data-driven organization.
Okay, it's very interesting. So now the real question is, if you don't have enough data or no data at all to answer the business assumption, what would you do?
The first thing is transparency. It's being transparent that you don't have the data points available to maybe answer some of the questions, but it's also about finding proxies that could potentially answer the question. So as an example, if you have data that's sparse on a geographic location, it's about, can you use supplementary data or alternate data to supplement the hypothesis that you have? So can you do market research to supplement the information that you have? And when you present this to business or when you present your findings, it's about being transparent enough that this is the confidence that I actually have in this pack. These are my suggestions, but these are the caveats that's associated with it. Often at times, you will have sparse data that you need to work through. And that's natural as you move into emerging markets as well. So it's about finding the right balance, and it's about conveying the right message, but it's also about being transparent.
What's clear is that technology alone doesn't create data maturity. Ultimately, it comes down to people, how teams are structured, how talent is developed, and how organizations create environments where strong data thinking can thrive. As AI rapidly changes the landscape, the human side of data may become even more important, not less. So for our final chapter, let's talk about talent, culture, and where the future of data is heading. So banking is a high-trust industry. As AI becomes more integrated into the business, how do your team approach it responsibly and thoughtfully?
Yes. One of the key aspects that we look out for is how we deal with PI data, so personal identifiable data. Because we have 22 million customers on book at the moment, they trust us to manage their privacy and their data privacy strictly. So we take a pragmatic approach, and we take this quite seriously. As we move through with AI in the organization, or analytics, or insights, or modeling, majority of the time we don't need customer information in order to deliver the capabilities or models in that particular area. So we apply the right protocols, we apply the masking strategies, the right obfuscation, the right governance in place, and the right guardrails in place to ensure that customer information does not feed through into any of the models that we're running through. So we take this quite seriously, and we also take a very pragmatic approach to how we deal this. But generally, customer information is definitely off the tables when it comes to building out the model itself.
Okay, so as you know about the strict data privacy, how do you protect customers' sensitive data? And will you use these data to enhance your LLMs and SLMs?
No. So we don't need customer data to enhance our LLMs or SLMs. We do apply, wherever we see PI data, there is obfuscation. And we do apply policies and protocols in place to obfuscate and tokenize the data that's coming through. If we need to apply masking strategies, we apply that. As I mentioned earlier, the right people have access to the right data to answer questions around their use case or for their particular use cases. Majority of the time, we don't need customer data, and we don't necessarily need to train models based on customer data. So the short answer is no, we don't need customer information to feed through into LLMs or SLMs for that matter.
Okay. We often hear about AI improving efficiency, but from a people perspective, how is AI changing the way your teams actually work day to day?
Yeah, that's an important question, especially where we're going with AI in the organization or AI in the world today. Personally, in my team specifically, we have seen massive improvement in terms of the speed and the quality of the output that comes out of the work by making use of some of these tools. And I think it's important that we treat these as tools. These are tools at the disposal to make life easier, to manage the day-to-day activities, the mundane, automated pieces of the puzzle or of the process. To give you a sense, traditionally it would take a team about a week to build out a dashboard for that matter. But now with skills and with AI that can automate majority of the processes, you can actually have something in line or on the table of the business user in a couple of hours or even throughout the day. What is important here is also that the teams have to understand the context behind the tools that is being used, but they also need to understand the responses that's coming out. Be more critical in reviewing the answers and seeing whether the answer actually makes sense. So in short, it does help with efficiency. It does help with automation. It speeds up the process. But yes, we have to take a pragmatic approach as well.
Okay, thank you for your sharing. And beyond workflows and technology, AI is also reshaping the kind of talent organizations need. What kind of person thrives on your team?
Sure. Generally speaking, it's someone who still has that curiosity, someone that still has that hunger, that growth in them, where they want to grow, they want to be ambitious, they are ambitious, and they want to learn. They learn and they share across the different members that's in the team. Every person that comes in through the organization or to the team, everyone has a unique set of skills, everyone has a unique set of capabilities. And I do believe that if the team members can leverage off the best traits from each other, we can all learn through the process. With AI specifically, and because we're on Databricks and AWS, we're learning through this process as well. You have teams that are not shy to get their hands dirty. They want to learn about new technology. In actual fact, GoTyme itself thrives on using modern technology in order to drive business outcomes. And that nature fills in with the talent that comes through in the organization as well. They have that hunger, they have that ambition, and they have that always curious nature.
Okay, I see. So let me ask a little more about it. So what's the culture and working environment like for them?
Yeah, so let's talk about the safety aspect, right? So as a new member that comes into the organization, you want the new member to sort of feel, firstly, at home. You want them to be able to share what they're thinking. You want them to be able to share. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Is the motto that we have at the moment, or in the organization as a whole. And we want teams to start sharing and collaborating. So safety is a big part of that. Giving them the ability or the opportunity to share what they're thinking through, because often at times you can find gaps in the process or thinking. It just adds a different perspective. The second piece is around autonomy. Generally, when a developer or data persona works through a project, they own the project. So data scientists and data analysts and data personas in fintech are very different to the same in banking, as an example. The actual expectation and requirements of them and exposure that they will get is much more compared to traditional banks in itself. So it's about the autonomy on the project itself, and it's allowing them to take full ownership end to end, where they see the true value of what they are actually delivering on the front line. And then the last one is a sense of purpose. So as I mentioned, we're serving 22 million customers currently, and they trust us with their banking needs. They trust us to build better products. And in that, there's a sense of purpose when talent comes into the organization and works on a project. You're working towards inclusive banking. You are working towards banking for an incumbent and making life easier for everyone, or banking for everyone. So we want to build better products. So it's always purpose-driven. So if I can reiterate, it's safety, autonomy, and a sense of purpose.
Okay, very interesting. With so many career opportunities in data today, how does GoTymeX keep talent growing and engaged?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. So as I mentioned earlier, we on a modern data stack with modern tooling. And that in itself, for all the techies out there, is also exciting to sort of work on with the new products that keep getting onboarded onto these modern data platforms or these modern data stacks. Apart from that, it is that sense of ownership and the culture that we have in the organization itself, as well as the growth opportunity that's in the country. As I mentioned, we're currently operating in 2 countries at the moment, and we're ambitious, and we want to grow into multiple markets. So the growth opportunity in the organization is massive. We are a lean staff complement, and the exposure that they get is quite massive in comparison to a traditional bank, or in comparison to other markets out there. But yes, in short, the culture, the technology, the people, we try and nurture the talent as much as possible. As long as they have that drive and ambition, we can work through it.
Okay, so from your point of view, Mr. Bivash, how do you see data roles evolving with AI changing the landscape?
I alluded to this earlier around the context of a discussion, and with AI speeding up the output that is being delivered by the teams today. In that, you have teams that are no longer focusing on the what itself. They focus more on what is the outcomes that you're trying to drive with AI now. So AI can take care of majority of the pieces that took a lot of time, and it's now about understanding what is the output that we're getting out of this, and whether it makes sense to deliver to the rest of the business. So data roles are changing slightly. It's majority of the work is taken care of with AI, and it's just now about how do you interpret this information and how do you make it useful in the organization.
And finally, for someone considering a data career at GoTymeX, how should they prepare for their future here and for the future of the industry?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we're operating in multiple countries. We're serving 22 million customers. The work actually matters because they're owning the project and owning the use case. They get to work throughout the life cycle of the project, and they can see how impactful it is, not just to the business, but to the customer as well. We're operating on a modern data stack. So apart from the technical skills that's required for this, what we also look for is someone that is hungry, someone that is passionate, someone that has critical thinking. Because with the world of AI and with the outputs that we get from AI, we have to think about this critically, whether the information can be used to make a business decision on or make an impactful decision on. Yes, so in short, someone that is curious, someone that is hungry, and someone that wants to constantly grow in the organization.
Thank you, Mr. Bivash, for sharing us a very excellent insights.
No, thank you so much for having me on here, and I really enjoyed the chat. Thank you.
Thank you. Today's conversation makes one thing very clear. Data is no longer just a technical capability sitting in the background of the business. It is increasingly becoming core infrastructure for how organizations operate, compete, and innovate. And building that capability takes clear strategy, strong foundations, thoughtful leadership, and most importantly, people who know how to turn data into meaningful decisions and real business impact. As the next chapter of AI unfolds, organizations with strong data foundations won't just adapt faster. They'll help shape what comes next.